Thank you for being here. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, or whenever it is you get around to keeping me company with the draft. Today, we're doing a Foundations Quick Draft, and I didn't like the rare, so I just grabbed the Sarah Angel. um, so this week we're doing some Foundations drafts. They switched over to Quick Draft, and I enjoy this set, even though for some reason I had kind of like a rough time getting up some like higher win rates that made for actual decent long form content. But I have them for you this week here and on Patreon. And as always, the video with more wins is on Patreon because you guys deserve to get a little more view time, a little more bang for your buck if you're actually dishing out some buckage. So that's how that's going. And in the meantime, uh I can talk about what the heck it is that we're drafting. We're just doing some blue white flyers. That's it. We got one Imperium Eagle so far, and we got a Hawk, and we got Authority of the Consuls. I actually like the Grappling Kraken here. I know it's not a flyer, even though I just told you we were doing flyers, but plot twist, so deal with it. No, but the Kraken's great. Uh, it's like a top end for blue. It can really help you like push through. I see a lot of Simic decks use it. Um, but I figured like why not try it in a little blue white if it actually comes up for us. So that's what we're doing. And then here we got Tiny Bones for a rare. I don't really like him. He's hard to build around in draft because the things he wants you to do are like very specific. And in draft, usually like both players kind of run out of cards anyway, so it's hard to get people to discard cards regularly and get Tiny Bones out when they're discarding cards regularly. So we're just going through and we're shopping for some blue white flyers. And that's about it. And I just passed one up for witness protection, and that's okay. So that's what's on the docket today. And I will say while we're doing this, next week we will not be doing foundations. We're actually gonna flip over to like some Bloomborough for a second before we jump into like wrapping up foundations and getting into Aether Drift. And I know, I'm still behind schedule. Like, excuse little old me, if you would, because this is just like a hobby I have after work. Um, it's nothing big right now, and it's me in my spare time playing the games, but then it's also me in my spare time, like doing the voiceovers and doing the editings, because I'm not super fun to talk to while I'm thinking really hard about magic. So, it, whatever time it takes, like whatever time the video says it takes on it, it takes me like 3 times as long because I watch it again while I talk, and then I watch it again while I edit, and yeah, takes a minute. But I do it because I like having something positive out there in the world that entertains people and makes their day better. That makes me happy. So again, like truly, thank you for being here. But anyway, what I did want to mention from that long tangent here is that I will be pretty soon here actually like doing things more in the now. Um because I know another set is coming out soon. But in the next couple weeks, like I'll actually be caught up to be releasing stuff from the new set. I won't say on time, but like pretty dang close to on time. Like I'll start getting drafts out there probably only like a week or two after the Dragon Storm comes out, which is really exciting. We'll actually be on time with stuff. Yay. I'll probably keep quick drafts like as a thing that I do for a while though. So like some of my drafts won't be in whatever the newest released set is because the quick drafts are always something else. And the reason for that is just because like I'm not in a position where I'm regularly winning like 6 wins, 7 wins in a draft, which means like you don't really get your money back. And um, later on in this channel, that won't matter, and I'll just do like the regular drafts, like the premier drafts, all day long for you. So that those of you who don't want to spend money on that can still experience it vicariously through somebody. But for the time being, we're sticking with quick drafts just so I can like practice up my drafting skills, get some more bang for my buck. And that way, like later when I'm doing stuff more on time and more regularly and everything, those premier drafts feel a little more worth it because with my practice, my win ratio will be higher. So this is the deck I'm doing. It is lots of flyers, two different uh two different mass attacking bounce spells with the Aetherize, and then we have some authority of the consoles. I've never pulled them in draft, and somehow I grabbed two of them. So this deck actually came together in like a very neat, bundly kind of way that I'm happy to debut and share with you. So with that, we're gonna jump right in. So first hand of the first game is lackluster. 5 lands and 2/1 drops. Great. So hopefully, God, hopefully we draw well in a way that lets us like smooth stuff out. Okay, the eagle is like a pretty good draw because now we can start carving out. So I think I'm happy with that. We're playing Simic. I've seen a lot of people in Foundations lean towards Simic. And I think that just says a lot about how like there's two things I've seen a lot in Foundations. I've seen a lot of Simic and I've seen a lot of Orzhov. And there's just something about like playing really creature heavy decks in this format that seems to serve people like very well. And I think that just comes with the territory of the Foundations set being a lot more motivated to go back to basics and like just bring back some classics and kind of slow down a little bit. Um, you'll just see that creatures kind of excel, at least as far as draft goes. I'm not talking about constructed by any means here. So here I'm just going in. We're racing. We are hitting them as hard as we can, as fast as we can, because that's what we do. And I decide to neutralize the cackling prowler instead of the creature that lets us draw extra cards, but like we get hurt when we draw. And part of that's because my deck has life gain built into it, and my life is pretty high. And part of that is because I do want to draw other cards, and they're already at low life, so I don't think the card draw is going to hurt me in a substantial way. And I do know in the past, I have in fact left that card alive before, and I've gotten stung. I've gotten burned by it, so like I understand. And then here I don't play the Kraken, even though I probably should have. And I purely didn't play it probably because I just like hit next too fast, or I wanted to play it without anything bad happening to it. Like I wanted to be protected. I wanted to be able to like slap it down and then immediately play a land. And I wasn't that worried about like if I'm using my mana efficiently. Because at a certain point, like I'm not a great player, so like please don't take me as an example. But at a certain point in draft, like you kind of notice mana efficiency is going out the window a little bit because like a lot of times people are kind of clunky. But like if I had just played it, then now I could have played like the eagle and the hawk and gotten their creature to be tapped down. So it's like, I don't know. You can say what you want about it, but it doesn't really change the outcome of the game. And past me can't hear you or me, so it doesn't change how this game plays out right now. But yeah, that's where we're at. So they're doing some landfall stuff. The game's in life to make some tokens. I've seen this before, and it's weird because like I have tried drafting with Tatiova a couple times because on paper she looks really good. You're like, oh, every time I play a land, I draw a card. That seems good because like lands are something that like you always end up playing, and you play certainly a lot in draft when you wish you had something besides lands. I feel like, and that was kind of rough. Oh, that's also rough. Another fight spell. Good thing we still have an eagle. Um, and it's just kind of like she's one of those cards where there's something about her being positioned at 5 mana that like makes sense because drawing cards every time you play land is like a powerful ability. But there's something about it where it's like if you're behind, she's not good enough to help with what you're doing. And it's like if you're ahead, she's not good enough for you to really care that she's helping you gain more momentum. And if you're at parity with the other player, like maybe she can help, but when you're that late in the game, like slapping down a 3/3, I don't know. And it's like, especially if you're like just pulling cards off the top because you don't have anything else, and all you're doing is like playing her and then passing and seeing if you'll draw a land on your next turn, which you don't even want. You'd rather just have another spell. So it's like at that point, you're just turning lands into trying to get something good. Like, I don't know. She seems underwhelming and like not really enough of like what you want to do at the later stages in a draft game. So I'm not blocking here because I have plenty of life, and I think they're trying to bait me into blocking with the Kraken so they can like do a combat trick and kill it. Because they're really tired of me tapping down their like one guy that can actually block my flyers. And I understand for sure, and that's also why I'm not attacking with the Kraken. Why they would want that, but I'm also just not gonna give them the opportunity to like do that. So it's been impressive, like how many answers they've been able to find and how long they've been able to stall. And I think part of that is probably thanks to the cards that they're drawing. And you could say, yeah, like from Tatiova, like your whole speech is meaningless. But they also have like the scrawling crawler, so like they're drawing a lot of cards every turn. Um, but even though they're drawing a lot of cards and like they're answering stuff and kind of climbing ahead, like they're still just so far behind. And it's like when I play Tatiova, I feel like the same thing has happened when I tried to draft her. So I don't know. Maybe you all have had more positive experiences having her in your decks. Because, like, she's not a bad card. She's really good. I just think for this format, she's too slow. So I'm blocking one of their 1/1s here. Well, they have their giant growth mana open. because it's like if they giant growth the 1/1 and it turns into a 4/4, my Kraken still doesn't die. So I'm being really careful about this. And I decided to start tapping down their creatures that can actually deal damage and like pressure me. Because we're just gonna remove the guy we keep tapping down. And now it's not a problem. And then we play another eagle. And now we have lethal anyway. So here we go. And here they come with the giant growth. Dun dun. Good game. Alright. A hand for a second game. We got 4 lands. We have both our colors. It's really all you can ask for. So. And some cards that don't just cost like 7 and 8 mana. That too. We got Authority of the Consuls, which is just a nice turn 1 play for this deck. And I'm happy to see it. We got our second white, so we can play the Sarah Angel on time, which is nice. So we'll see what happens here. Gain a life. The commando's a little bit of a bummer because like it could kill the enchantment, but if they sacrifice it to break the enchantment, like I'm weirdly okay with that. Obviously they're not interested in sacrificing their thing to get rid of my enchantment because they have suited it up and it is ready to go. So we'll attack. Coming in, that 1 point of damage. Gain our 1 life. And like part of me thinks, looking back on this, right, I should have just slapped it with the Imprisoned in the Moon and forced them to get rid of it. Because 4 damage every turn is a lot. And the way that they're not playing stuff makes me think their whole game plan is revolved around like hitting me with a high-powered creature. Because if we did it on time, we could have Imprisoned in the Moon and then played our 4-drop, and then next turn played the Angel and not had a problem. So here we're getting rid of their most problematic creature at the moment. And I guess you could argue it's the other way around. So I decided to attack and just gain a little bit of life to like make their clock go off slightly. And you could argue like I should have held both of the Hawks back and like traded with them. I feel like with how many cards they're refusing to play every turn though, they definitely have answers. Because they're very interested in like not spending any of their treasures. Which tells me they probably have stuff in their hand that they want to do. And they're just not doing it. Like, as soon as we play something they see as problematic, they have to sit there and think about it. Look at them, thinking about it. Scheming. And there goes our Angel. Yep, this was their whole deck. Just playing high power, low toughness creatures and attacking. It's not a bad strategy. It's obviously working for them. I do like the Truffle Snout. He always seems to put in some amount of work. Okay. Well, we're gonna get rid of him. Yeah, at least get rid of something. Now, if we did the Imprisoned on the Moon the other way, we probably would have used the Make Your Move on the Scavenging Ooze because it would be large. We'd probably be right where we are now, maybe with a couple more life. Would that make a difference? Possibly. But I think their deck was just like their deck and the cards they drew and the cards we drew. I think they were just well suited to win this game. I think it drawing an eagle at any point in time would have made this game like a little bit better for us. And if I knew that all they were doing was playing cheap, high powered creatures, I would have removed their creatures sooner. But, I mean, there's no way to know that. So. And here, I think I would have waited to go to damage because when they said good game like that, there's a potential that, like, they have a pump spell in their hand and they were planning on ending it this turn. So that's sloppy on my part. I would call that a misplay. But it is what it is. And it's something to take away for next time. Always learning. Now they're bringing everything back. We drew a land, which is 100% not what would have helped us here. So we'll play it. We'll play the bird. We'll pass the turn. We'll see what they do. It seems like they've had this one in the bag for a few turns now, though. Especially because they still have removal. Yep. Alright, well. Continue we shall. This hand doesn't make me feel confident. Only 2 lands and not both of our colors. This hand feels a lot better. Okay. Sure. I say sure like that because essentially the game's telling us you're not playing anything till turn 3. And depending on who you're playing against, that's a really good way to lose the game. So I guess we're lucky that they're taking a while over there with all of their like tapped lands. I guess we'll play the first spell of the game on turn 3. Yikes, that was kind of a gamble. So I'm reading Lathril just to make sure I know what she does. Like when she hits you, however big she is, she makes that many 1/1s, and then you tap 10 untapped elves, and an opponent takes 10 damage. Not damage, just loses 10 life. But either way, it's like I decided I didn't need to worry about her like right now. And I can just play out the other Empyrean Eagle and like develop the board a little more. Because, well, that kind of changes things. I was going to say, because I can just keep swinging and they can just get blown out by Aetherize. Because when you put a token in somebody's hand, that token's just gone. So there's that we could be doing. But then they had to play a Death Touch Reach blocker that we can't even trade with. So that was a pretty good response. And we'll see what else they do. They seem to be thinking really hard for whatever reason. Alright, okay. Are they going to attack with the spider? Sure. That means you're not going to block my eagles on the way back. Unless you play another spider, that would be weird. I think that was kind of a poor choice on their part. Like, they basically just said, yeah, hey, hit me for 6. But you know what? I think they thought I was holding my eagles back so I could block their menace creature, which, like, isn't wrong to think, but it's like, I honestly don't care. So we didn't play Self Reflection. We decided to hold up Aetherize. We're just gonna see what they swing with. Everything but the spider. Okay, well, that's 8 damage that we don't want to take if we don't have to, so we're not going to. We're gonna reset them just a little bit here. They're playing like mono 4 drops. All of their spells have cost 4. The nice thing about using Self Reflection on the eagle here is they're actually big enough to trade with the spider. So we'll lose an eagle, but they'll lose their blocker, and we won't have to consistently lose a flyer to them, which is really nice. And then, to make sure we still have lethal damage on board, we'll play a hawk, but not before they break their land. The fetching lands and responses is kind of petty, isn't it? Like, oh, you're actually having a turn? Nah, I want to do something on your turn. This game's about me, don't you know? You're just the opponent. Alright. Let's do self-reflection again. Those some big eagles. And now, even if they block, we can still win the game. Good game. Alright. Back again. We got a pretty good opening hand. I kind of like it. Authority of the Councils, turn 2 play, and then some later draws that will hopefully smooth out a little more. So it's going well. At least that creature comes and taps so we can peck them once. That Think Twice is actually really nice because it means like every turn we'll be able to efficiently use our mana, and that feels kind of good. A helpful hunter tapped. Now everyone's gaining life off creatures. Jeez. If you swing, I won't block. Okay, never mind. We'll just draw a card. Ooh. Do we dare give them a land? We give them a land. Get out of here. I'd rather they have an extra land than be able to block stuff we're doing. Pilfer. Don't take my stuff. No. And they got rid of the angel. We can't even play her. What the heck? Okay, well, maybe they can see the future. Or maybe they just understand you draw lands in this game. Either way. Oh, that's kind of a bummer for us. But if nothing else, we can play Think Twice for its flashback cost. Get another little card. Do our thing. So I don't want to block here, just in case they have like a combat trick. I don't really feel like losing the Strix Lookout because he's so good. Authority of the Consuls. Doing its thing. So, gonna draw that card like I talked about. Wow, we got a second one. Okay. And an Empyrean Eagle. I guess that's efficient. We can't use Make Your Move on the Dazzling Angel, which is kind of a bummer. So, we just won't. But next turn we have 2/2/3s. So, like, I guess we could swing with both and get around the angel. In case, I mean, if they, ooh, yikes. I was gonna say if they did have a combat trick, we'd get a little blown out, but I don't know. I don't know about any of this. We have 2 blue lands available to us. I could use make your move on the squad rallier and just cut off some potential card draw and some damage I'm taking. At this point, I'm like, if you have something, show me. They have something. Because they have something, and I kind of don't want to lose the Strix Lookout, I think we'll just bounce their stuff. Is it the most effective Aetherize in the world? Probably not. Should I have let them just hit me again? Maybe. But, you know, it is what it is, and I wanted to keep my creature, and now they're down a card for it. Okay. I think we have enough lands. And the eagle was a good find. So, play that, wait a turn, and then maybe we'll swing with dual 2/3s, like I wanted to last time. The awkward thing about great, that's rough. Our deck doesn't do too much without that eagle. I guess we're a little glass cannony, huh? A little fragile. I was gonna say the awkward thing about giving them their cat back is they get to draw a card. I don't know how I feel about giving them cards, but we seem to be doing good on just like gaining life. Alright, we're gonna cycle away this little land again. And we got another eagle. It looks just like last turn. Oh, they decided to get rid of the lookout instead of the eagle. They're tired of us cycling through our cards. Interesting. Maybe their thought is like, how many other eagles could they possibly have? Get rid of the annoying thing. But we're playing with a card no one expects you to play with. Because it's very expensive and generally probably valued as awful. But you know what? It did good in one game for us, and it's doing good in this game for us. So I'm happy with it right now. They're attacking. No blocks. We have the life to spend. I think they were just attacking for that attack trigger, honestly. And they have officially played out their hand. The Authority of the Consuls is working really well against the go wide, play lots of little creatures board. Oh, good game. It's a pretty good opening hand-ish. We got 3 lands in both our colors, but some of those cards up there are expensive. Okay. We got 4 lands, so eventually we can Aetherize. Eventually. Gaining life, and we draw the other most expensive card in our deck. Okay. So, not good draws this game, but variance is a thing. It happens. We'll just gain our life from them playing their creatures and hope for the best. And now we wait. So I think this is a misplay here, actually. I don't think I should be using Aetherize right now. I don't think, like, this card's too good to spend on just stalling for 3 Weasley points of damage when I'm at 20 life. And I think that the reason that I did it is because I just felt like I needed to play something because I haven't been. And I think that's part of the finesse of Magic is like people will tell you generally whoever spends more mana in the game wins the game. And it's like, well, when you're doing interaction and removal, sometimes that doesn't necessarily apply. And I think that's something to be like aware of and careful about. And so this was kind of like a cool learning moment to like look back on this game and be like, hey, that was like a terrible decision I shouldn't have done. Because if you play Aetherize in the next turn, it feels like they're just back to doing the exact same thing again. I think you played it wrong. But we're gonna hit with our 1/1 on the ground because that thing ain't blocking nothing with flying, so we might as well get in there. They're full swinging. I don't feel like trading with my hawk because if I pull out one of my eagles, my hawk will be better than theirs. They wanted to attack so they can get their mill trigger on. The top 3 cards. I'm gonna put one of those cards back on top of the others in the graveyard. I like how he says like you're guaranteed to get rid of cards on the top of your library. But if you really want to keep one, here's what I'm talking about with like the eagle means my hawk is better now. So I guess I could have swung with the 1/1 too, because like I doubt I'm gonna use it to block if it's not gonna trade. So again, another sloppy move on my part, but sloppiness happens, especially when you're playing after a long day, long week of work, and like your mind's not all the way there. You know, can't always be perfect or optimal, and that's okay. It's odd, like how much you learn from like watching yourself play these games, though. Like most people don't watch themselves replay Magic, so it's I guess in a way it's cool to see. Maybe it'll make me like a better player faster. So, you know, like I'm certainly not like the worst player, but there's always room to improve, isn't there? So here again, like I'm still doing that thing where I'm feeling pressured to do something because I have a lot of mana and my opponent's doing a lot. And it's like and I should still be attacking with that 1/1. Um And here's where the game takes a turn. So Valkyrie's Call, I'm convinced after playing this game, is one of the best cards you can rip and actually play in Foundations Draft. Like it takes every non-angel creature you have and makes it so when it dies, it comes back with +1/+1 and is an angel and has flying. So you can just start like swinging in and blocking like ridiculously carelessly and not mind and just go off. See, now I'm swinging with the 1/1, and I should have been doing that before. I'm keeping the land in case I get one of those cards that says, like, draw a card, discard a card, so I can start filtering for better stuff. But at this point, I'm gonna fast forward this game. Because, like, for transparency, I don't want to just cut it out and be like, "Oh, guys, look, like I lost," because it always feels a little bit like unsatisfactory when other like YouTubers that play Magic do that. It always kind of feels like they may have goofed up and they don't want to show you because the internet is a very cruel and harsh place, and people are like hypercritical when someone online like makes a mistake, especially when they're playing a game for some reason. And so like it just I don't know, like it just I wanted to leave this in here in case you wanted to see like this very slow, drawn out downfall. And it's like me and the opponent here were both kind of being idiots for a lot of reasons. Like I should have held that clone for the hawk. I'm glad I didn't here because gaining the life was important to like prolong what is ultimately my suffering and a loss because they have the best card or one of the best cards in the whole dang set. But they're also being an idiot because it's like, see how they're full swinging right now? Eventually, they just stop doing that. And they shouldn't have stopped doing that. Um, they should have always full swung because I would have lost like a lot sooner. And I should have like definitely blocked differently because it's very apparent like they don't have a combat trick. Or just like attacked with things I wasn't planning on blocking with and like applied more pressure to them. And so I think that like both of us should have and could have played very differently and both of us didn't. And it's not like we're going to go back and change that, but it's like this game took so long because both of us were being incompetent and kind of stupid. um and so I'm just fast forwarding to get through what felt like hours in just a few minutes here because this whole game can be boiled down to they had the upper hand. They played one of the best cards in the format, so they kept the upper hand, and then they ended up like outvaluing me and winning because none of their creatures um, would really like die or get off the battlefield. And when they did, they had reanimation effects that just like brought them back anyway. So it was a racket, and I hope you like the fast forwarded version. But we're just like we're continuing on. We're doing what we do. So on to the next game. We're back with only 2 lands. I could tell you that that game did take like 40 minutes or an hour, and I always play late at night. So at this point, I am probably feeling it, probably tired. And I think that's one of the reasons why I kept this hand with 2 lands. I looked at it, saw both my colors and some cheap spells, and just went, whatever. Which maybe isn't like the healthiest way to go about this kind of game. But like for better or worse, we're humans and we get exhausted and that's where I'm at. So that's what we're doing. Once again, drew the most expensive card in the deck, High Self-Reflection. So we're playing another Simic deck, and we're just gonna see where it goes. I will tell you that like the little horn beetle, anytime somebody has that thing sit on the battlefield for a while, and they get that like 4 powered creature out, it just turns into such a powerhouse. So I can see why like Simic is popular when you have just an uncommon card like that. It gets bigger almost just for existing because when you play Korean, you're of course gonna have like big creatures. And at this point, like I have an Aetherize and I have a Make Your Move, but I decide like we're gonna play the creature that cares about drawing cards to get bigger, and we'll deal with it next turn. Like I have an Authority of the Consuls. I know they're nervous about what I'm doing in the air. Like we can take a turn before we start messing with their board. So since they neutralized my creature, I'll just negate some damage. It's not really going to do much more than that anyway. Alright, we drew a 5-cost spell and we don't have that 5th land. So our options are kind of Aetherize or Make Your Move. And I decide it might be good to go the Aetherize route because it'll get the counters off their creatures, even if they take time to replay those creatures. So we're gonna let them do their thing. They're full swinging, which if you're playing Aetherize is what you want. That's nice for us. We'll see what they have. On the way out, they're taking care of my only other flyer. And they put the beetle back. We gain a life, though. Okay. Still no 5th land. We're getting pretty unlucky with the draws. So now the question is, like, do I continue pressuring them? Or do I relax for a second? And I decide to just pressure them. I do realize, like, next turn, their beetle is going to turn into a 3/3 because they're going to play a 4-drop creature and trigger it. Or not 4-drop, 4 power. That's way more than 4 power, and that's scary. And it's kind of nice they played that because their other creature had ward. So there's a chance we couldn't actually target it. I forget if the ward is 1 or 2. Here's our 5th land. Let's do something. Okay. A good blocker. The vigilance at this point in the game is kind of nice. We gain another life. Their beetle gets bigger, but it's still not worth attacking with. Okay, we have options. I opt for the Healer's Hawk, even though mana-wise it's wildly inefficient. Because I think if we're trying to race, that life gain is actually significant. Especially since they opted to go to 4. I could definitely see it where you go the other way around, though. You do the Icewind Elemental, you draw discard, and you probably discard the Self-Reflection so that it's in the graveyard because the flashback costs 4 instead of 6, and the next turn you could play the Healer's Hawk and Self-Reflection something. Like, maybe that would have been the better way to go, you know? But I don't think deciding, like, hey, we're going to put out a flyer that gives us lifelink is like the worst thing in the world. So I have the Imprisoned in the Moon, and I'm like, I kind of want to hit somebody with it. And I decide to get rid of the creature that every single turn keeps getting bigger. And we're full swinging because the Armasaur Guide lets us put a counter on our Hawk. And now their 1 flyer isn't going to cut it in terms of trading, which is kind of nice. So we lose a couple creatures. They only lose 1 of theirs. It's a little rough. But we're at a pretty high life total, and we're pressuring them really hard. It's still a 2/2. It's just on the ground now. Gain more life because they played a creature. It's interesting how much work the Authority of the Consuls does in draft. And I think that's just because, like, in draft, everyone's generally playing, like, a creature heavy deck. Like, it's really rare to not find one. Here's my flyer. So we decide to discard the Think twice because I can play it again. And I think the reason for that is because if I finally do draw a land, I'll be able to Self-Reflection twice, whereas if I shove that in the graveyard, I'll only be able to duplicate something once. And I realize that thinking might be faulty because, like, how many turns am I going to play left? Good game, case in point. So we have 2 lands and only expensive stuff. That makes me nervous. I don't know how much I like this better. So I just put back one of the 4 cost spells. You know what's interesting is this little like sky mage that we have. I haven't really gotten them to do anything once this whole draft. It's like they're a 1/1 that costs 4. Like, I don't know. I'm just like everyone's always really scared of it and they kill it right away. Like it's a lightning rod for removal and that's it. Like maybe that's part of the reason why I haven't done anything with it. But at the same time, it's just like I don't know. I don't know about this card. Like unless you're playing a deck that's just constantly like draw, 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 I don't know if it's good. So the reason I went for getting that loot off the battlefield, or at least not able to activate its ability, is because when they can play 2 lands per turn, if they had 2 in their hand, this turn they would have been able to activate his ability and put something potentially very large and scary and wild onto the battlefield. And I just didn't like that. That was scary. And like they're playing a 6 drop anyway, so it's like I don't know how much I helped, but we're just gonna get rid of some more damage so we don't take 7 next turn. Well, we draw all of the most expensive cards in our deck in a row. So they're just gonna play more creatures. They're leaving mana up, which makes me think whatever I play, they're gonna end. So maybe I should have played the little 4-drop guy. So they would use their removal on that instead of the angel. But if I did that, like they would hit me for 6 and maybe not care to remove it. And then next turn when I play the angel, they like hit me just as hard, if not harder, and they still remove the angel. I don't know. They had it, and they had the version that they can't even use on the Sky Mage. Elvish Regrower is a good card. I believe this game is wrapped up. We didn't have good draws, and they had some really good ones. All right. Good game. So here's the deck one more time. It's not bad. I think some choices were made that would be different if I played the deck again. But I had fun, and we won more than we lost, so I'm happy with it. So next week, as I mentioned, uh, we'll do some Bloomborough drafts on here in the Patreon, and then we'll move on to some Aether Drift before we get into Dragonstorm, which I'm pretty excited for. On the Patreon this week, though, we do have another Foundations Quick Draft that performs much, much better than this. So if you want to see another video that's a little bit longer, and has a little bit of a of a better track record, feel free. But again, like you don't have to give me your money. I'm happy you're here anyway. So thank you, and I will see you next week in a brand new video.